Hello and welcome, I'm Stormo and this is City Skylines. It's a new game from Colossal Order, the developers of the Cities in Motion series, and the best way to describe this game is that it is SimCity 5 done right. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. SimCity 5 was a horrible travesty of a game, and this is everything it should have been. I am a long-time fan of the SimCity series, going back to playing the original game on a Mac Plus in school when I was a kid, and then years later I had SimCity 2000 on my first proper computer that I owned. Played the crap out of that, and I got what did I get? SimCity 4 when it came out. And I should have seen the warning signs then when SimCity 4 came out, and I actually had to wait 2 weeks for a patch that would make it run on my computer. For some bizarre reason there was an interaction between that game and I think my graphics card at the time, but I can't remember exactly what it was, but basically the game did not work out of the box for me, and it was one of the first times I'd experienced that with a PC game, and of course now these days that's not uncommon, but I should have seen the warning signs back then. But yeah, so City Skylines basically makes up for all of the bad stuff that happened with SimCity 5, and I'm going to take a look at it. You can obviously see I've got a fairly well-established city right here, and I'll explain what all these icons you can see, the abandoned house and these skulls. Yeah, so I'll explain what all those mean as we get through the video, but first I just thought I'd take you on a look through here. So, when you start the game, you make a new game, you get these plots, and you see them highlighted here. You start, in fact, on this map you start with this one here. And then you can buy up to 9, which I've got with this city, all around there. And each plot is a 2 by 2 kilometre square, or in-game kilometres obviously, square. And as your city grows you can expand to more plots. The other thing you have, of course, are linking highways, which are these things here. And when you start this particular map, which is one of the first maps you start, you have an entryway to the first plot you get here. But what I'm going to do is just bring the camera down so you can see this nice sort of symmetrical entryway I've developed here. That looks fantastic, doesn't it? Yeah, like, this game is fantastic. Like, I love city building games to begin with, and I've always wanted one that just lets me create these sprawling metropolises. And that's... I mean, I love SimCity 4 because it kind of let you do that, but SimCity 4 still had the grid and everything like that. I'll move away from the airport. I've got an airport just over there, so... And SimCity 4 let you do that, but you're still restricted to that grid, which this game you are not restricted to. See, glorious curved roads up there. And you've got buildings that look fantastic. I'm running a couple of asset packs, so you might see some buildings that aren't in the default game here if you're familiar with it. I am running at least one asset pack, which mostly consists of recolours of existing buildings, but that's okay because it just adds a bit more variety, and you can see that there actually isn't a huge amount of building variety. You can see there's a lot of, like, these buildings here, they're all quite similar, just different colours. So most of the buildings have a few recolours, and the asset pack I installed, and I'll talk about modding because this game has a really cool modding. I'll talk about that soon enough. But first, let's just talk about cities and city building. So as you can see, I've developed quite a big city here. And you can probably see these names over the city where it says, you may not be able to read them, it says like Holly Heights and stuff like that. So one of the new features this game adds to the city building genre is this concept of districts, and you have down here a district tool. And what this is, and for a sort of city sim nerd like me, this is amazing. It basically lets you define suburbs. So you can see as I'm scrolling around, these are basically districts. And you can think of them basically as suburbs, and you can use them. You don't have to use them. Like, I haven't actually districted out this area, so the way you create a district, and I'll just do it with this area, I'll use the big brush just to make it quick, is you just paint it like that. So there, I've made a district, right? And that's how you make districts. And you can see you have districts there and stuff. You don't have to use them the way I've used them here. You can use them any way you want, really. The advantage districts give you, though, as you're developing them, is you can see here there are these different kinds of districts. So you can have an ore industry district or a oil industry. Now, those are industrial districts. And I've got one up here. This one here is a ore district, which I actually need to expand slightly. So to expand a district, you just click inside the boundary and you just paint. Anything you do with districts just involves painting, and it's really cool. So what that will do is that it will turn that district, which is not doing well at the moment. I've got a bit of a problem. I did some major redeveloping, which cut my population a little bit, which is why there's all these abandoned buildings. But yeah, so basically this will now mine ore, and there's actually a natural resource. If I bring up the natural resource view here, you can see the yellow under there indicates, not the yellow, the blue around there. You see that faint blue, that indicates that there is ore in the ground there. Yellow indicates fertile land, so for farming and stuff. I had a fertile land block, I think it was there, but it looks like it's all been in. I've got one there, which I should probably, turn that into like farmland or something, which I haven't done. And then there's this green here, which is forest, which I've got a forest industry there. There's oil there, which I can't actually get to because it's outside of my city boundary. You can see the dotted line just there, so I can't actually get to that one. But yeah, that's the natural resources view. It's not as comprehensive as the trading and resources system in SimCity 4 or 5. There's no region play that the most recent SimCity games have had. But that's not a bad thing. You do still actually ship to sort of imaginary cities that are beyond the boundary. Like you can see over there, like that just disappears into the nether. And I've actually got here a cargo train. The trains will come and deliver cargo and take cargo away. Pardon me. And they'll take cargo away and all that kind of stuff. And they can actually ship cargo around your city. In fact, I was reading an article by someone who's a actual urban planner, does civil engineering and all that kind of stuff, and he was saying that the way cargo trains in this game work, and I didn't realise this, is that you can actually use them to move cargo around your city as well. So, and that's what I've got there. This highway you can see here, by the way, is actually one of the default highways on this map, but once you expand to cover it, you can actually change its direction. In fact, I've got another highway over here. I'll just zoom across here. You can actually see this sort of rough looking bridge. That's not how it looks. Originally this highway actually cuts across where I'm just running the mouse cursor there, and I moved it there because I wanted to build a hydroelectric dam. In fact, I should talk about that because that's one of the coolest things in this game. So this game has water physics, and I'm not even kidding when I say water physics. So what I'll do, just quickly to show this off, and we'll do this now and come back to it a little bit later. So if I go here and I grab my hydro dam, and I can draw a dam across the river there. I need to find a point where it's green. There we go. I don't really care about this. I'm going to demolish it. My city's full of money anyway, so it doesn't matter. So you can make this, and I'll just speed the simulation up a bit. I usually play on normal speed, but we'll speed it up for the sake of illustration. You see the water starts to bank up, and you see the water level drops at the other side there. In fact, it's actually flowing through the wall at the moment, which is, I guess, a little bit of a bug. But yeah, you can start to see what's happening here. The water level drops there, and it will actually flood over here. And I actually have created entire maps where all I've done is built like a massive dam and tried to flood the map as much as possible. So yeah, not only is this City Skylines, it's also Dam Simulator 2015, which is great. And these are hydroelectric too, so they'll generate power, although this one won't because of the way I've built it. But yeah, you can see the water starting to flood into the land. If I let that go, it'll actually flood all this whole area up the back here, and I'll just end up with this massive flooded area. I suppose in a way I can end up flooding my whole city, which I'm not going to do. And you see, of course, I've emptied the river channel out by doing that. And that's a really cool feature. Just bulldoze that because I don't really need it. I just want to show that off because it's just such a cool feature, and like I say, I've actually spent time playing with that. That's my airport, which I've given its own district. This is a incineration plant which takes garbage and burns it and turns it into electricity, which is a really cool thing. It gives you sort of, I wouldn't say useful power generation, but just a little bit of backup power generation above and beyond what you'd otherwise get. My city's doing okay for power generation. Well, for some reason the garbage trucks aren't quite getting to these buildings here. This is a new area I'm sort of just starting to establish, so I've just drawn out the first part of it at the moment. And I'll fill it up a bit more. I'm probably going to put a passenger train there and set that up as well. But I'll look at some of the other stuff. So you have your standard residential, commercial and industrial demand gauges, which you can see down where I've got the cursor. I'm just bumping the screen because edge scrolling. And that shows you what you should be building. So at the moment I should probably add more commercial. To lay out an area, and I'll just do one quickly right now so we can see it. So I'll get down here. I usually use this kind of view to map everything out. And we'll just make a fairly standard one. I've got that road out a bit too far there. Doesn't matter. If I can line it up, what you want to try and do is line it up so you don't have that gap in the middle, but stuff it. I'm not Trump, I'm not going for maximum value here. So what I will do is try and extend that road a little bit longer so that I can pull this road out. I'm going to do this one block. Okay, so you can pull that out, and then you go to your zoning tools, and you have low density, high density residential, low density, high density commercial, industrial, which only has one density, and offices, which is, yeah, I suppose offices. I haven't sort of really explored offices all that much, so, and we just add that there. And then the other thing you need to do in this game, which is something you didn't need to do in SimCity 5, but of course something that SimCity veterans will remember, is you need to draw water pipes. In this case I don't actually need to, because the area is covered. You can see this sort of blue boundary and then the pipe in the middle. The water pipes are also the sewage pipes. These are my water treatment plants. And they take the sewage out of the city system. So you need enough. You've got your demand graph here for it. So this is how much water I have available. If it sinks into the red, people start running out of water. And the same for sewage. Should probably build some more water plants, actually. And if I go over here, you can see I've got them lined up on the edge of this lake, right next to my nuclear power plant, which I figured was the best place for water intake because of some reason, I guess. There's no need to actually put a nuclear power plant next to a body of water in this game. I just did it because that's where I had the space for it. So I go to my water thing, and you put water pumping stations. You can also use water towers, which produce less water, but are better for internal sort of placement, and they're cheaper, of course, as well. They generate less water. So I'll just add a couple more of these there, and I'll need to pipe them. So on the back of these things, if I just select the pipe tool, you can see there's these little nodes on the back that these things have, so that when you attach them, they connect to those nodes. And I shouldn't need to power those. Okay, so the other thing to keep in mind with the electricity, it works not entirely unlike the pipes. You can actually see this blue area. That means that that area is basically electrically charged, and electricity will magically flow to all the buildings in that area. But if you have a gap where that isn't the case, pardon me, like say here, you need to run electrical lines. So you don't need to electrify everything like you did in, say, SimCity 2000, but you still need to do it if the gap is significant enough. So, for example, I've got that running over here, and I've got this area here and these solar plants where I don't have that gap. So, and that's really cool. And you have wind, advanced wind, coal, gas. I've got a couple extras like an oil power plant, and yeah, a coal power plant that's different to the other one, and stuff like that. So I've got a couple of different ones there just for fun, just to play around with it. I haven't really used them that much, but that was the asset pack I installed. It's mostly recolors. I think some of the buildings take up a little bit less space as well, but anyway, so that's how you lay that out. You lay roads out and all that kind of stuff. And if you're familiar with the SimCity games, then everything in here works. You got your health, which is actually a little bit different, because you'll notice you have cemeteries and crematoriums, because this game considers health management and death management to be the same thing. Now, SimCity games tend not to bother with death. You generally don't need to build cemeteries or crematoriums or anything like that. This game you do, and let's just say that this happens if you aren't getting death coverage. If hearses can't get to buildings to take dead people away, you get these things, and then the buildings become abandoned because of reasons. I'll be honest, this is my least favourite aspect of this game. I'd be happy for a mod that just completely disables the whole death management side of it, or if nothing else, just tones it down so it doesn't get anywhere near as annoying. In a way, I suppose having all these skulls pop up around your city is a good indicator that you might have traffic problems, but overall it's just the least interesting part of the game for me. You have fire coverage, which, I don't quite have good fire coverage out there. I'll need to do something about that. You have police, which I do have really good police coverage from the look of it. Yep, I've got excellent police coverage, so no problems there. Education, which again is pretty good. And again, you have elementary, you have high schools. This is my asset pack showing up here, and universities, which I'm probably going to need to add a new university. You have public transport too. So bus, subway, rail, boat, and air. They're all part of the public transport. You can see the green lines crisscrossing the city. That's my subway network. You can see the stations. One nice thing it does is it highlights the relevant buildings by putting these sort of glowing pillars above them like that, so you can see everything there. So this is my bus depot. And you see these blue lines on the roads, these are bus routes. And I've been a bit higgledy-piggledy with my bus routes, which is not great because you can make bus routes, if you lay them out really well, will help alleviate traffic a lot. Oh, and that's a space elevator. I'll get to that. Bus routes can be really helpful, and I have rail as well. I actually have a passenger railway line, which you can see marked out there. It just goes up and around here to my other passenger station. The other stations there are cargo stations, so they count as public transport, even though they're not really public transport in this game. So, and you see my industrial area. The purple here indicates that there's ground pollution because it's industrial. What you don't want to do, and of course if you play SimCity you'd be familiar with this, you never want to get industrial areas next to your residential areas because then all the people get sick, and in this game sick people means dead people, and dead people are bad. Looks like I've got some fire coverage problems here. All these buildings are burnt down. One nice thing about this game though is if a building becomes abandoned, you don't have to bulldoze it. It will eventually recover, which is really handy. See, like I had all this was all abandoned before, and now it's recovered a bit because I was doing some remodeling, and my population dropped quite dramatically. I lost about 20,000 people. I had about 100,000, went down to 80,000. The main reason for that was I was remodeling this area over here. I was just upgrading it from low density to high density, which it's now done. I have my funky little roundabout. This is about as good as you can do with roundabouts in this game. So it's not that hard to build, but it's not a proper roundabout like what we in Australia would recognise as a roundabout. It's more what they call a traffic circle. But it gets the job done. So I'm not super fussed about it. In fact, you can see the building upgrading there as it goes about its stuff. And you can see I have a bunch of cash, so I'm not wanting for money. And you probably hear the noise of the city. This funny shaped building is a museum. You have, if I go here, you have a whole bunch of buildings that you can basically only really build once for your entire city. You can see there. And these unlock when you meet certain requirements for various other things. So for example, Grand Mall unlocks, I can't remember exactly what unlocks a Grand Mall actually, it doesn't say there. You have a tax office, which I've got, and then, yeah, I've got a oppression office, which I'm not sure I want to build the oppression office, but it is required for building something else, so maybe I will build that. Oh, I have unlocked the aquarium, which I didn't realise I had, and I need that if I want the Hadron Collider, which, oh, high interest tower, I haven't unlocked that yet. The Hadron Collider is one of these buildings, Theatre of Wonders, Sea and Skyscraper. And yeah, Modern Art Museum, which is what that building is, and Stadium, which is that building, and then you have these landmark monument buildings. The only one I've unlocked is the Space Elevator, but this is where the Hadron Collider is, the Eden Project, Medical Centre, yeah, Hadron Collider, and Fusion Power Plant. These buildings actually have functional purpose within the game. They're a bit fanciful, like this is the Space Elevator here, and it mostly exists to service passengers into space, presumably. But I mean, SimCity's always had a very fanciful element, so it doesn't surprise me this game has that too. It probably isn't quite as fanciful as SimCity, strangely enough. You see I've got this funky highway, and this will give you an idea of the way traffic works in this game. It's mostly pretty intelligent, but there are a couple of issues, and you see one of them actually somewhat illustrated here. You'll notice one of the things traffic tends to do in this game is it tends to sit in the lane that it most needs to turn in a few intersections ahead. And what that can mean is you can have like a 6-lane road where only 1 or 2 lanes are being filled by traffic. Even though in this particular case there's at least 4 lanes that could take all that traffic, but they need to distribute better. So it's not as completely broken as traffic was in SimCity 5 when it first launched, but it's not 100% perfect. And for the most part my city's traffic isn't too bad. I probably need to run more freeways. This was a freeway, and what I should have done if I was smart is I would have built like a freeway up through the middle here in Lincoln into that area up there. And I may still do that, like just divide my city up a little bit more with freeways, but I'm mostly using these 6-lane roads because they're more efficient at taking traffic than the highway roads, which are those there. So I'll just run through the roads quickly. So you've got like normal roads with grass, roads with trees, and then one-way versions, those in a dirt road. The grass and the trees basically increases land value and stuff like that. The upkeep's higher on them, so there is a budgetary concern for them, but yeah, in general, you want to put these in places where you want the land value to be higher because they help. I mean, you still have parks and all that kind of stuff as well, to do all that with. And then you have 6-lane roads, which is what these are. These are one-way 6-lane roads, which is why they're so wide and why all the traffic's moving down them. And they're really good for traffic management. Before I put this in, I had queues like going all the way back down here off this road. But I've recently just redone a bunch of this intersection and fixed it up, and now I don't have the traffic problems I was having. And I just thought I'd have like buildings there. So you've got this concrete canyon, and that's one of the great things I love with this game. In fact, the canyon effect you can get. Like you talk about concrete canyons, but you're not able to really get them in a lot of city buildings. Unfortunately, I might just switch to the free camera to see if I can alleviate some of that. Yeah, the camera's a bit dodgy. I'll find a better road for it. So I'll find a 6-lane road and give you the impression. There is actually a first-person camera mod which I had installed, but I didn't use. Yeah, there you go. You can see down there, and you got this beautiful sort of canyon effect with these buildings, and the tall buildings it works really well with. And if you're someone like me I love being in cities. I love going into the city here in Melbourne, and I love being in cities and surrounded by tall buildings and stuff like that. I'm very much a city kid in that regard. So having a game where I can replicate that like this, there we go, that's a good example of what I'm talking about right there. And you see there, I mean, I know some people won't find that particularly interesting or exciting, but I love it. And it's kind of what I play these games for in a lot of ways. And being able to do that and get down that low, and like I said, there's a first-person camera option. I need to be a bit more space efficient around here. But there's a first-person camera option as well, and you can do stuff with that. And it's really good. That's Opera House, and I've got these are some of the special buildings you can make, Expo Centre and stuff. They're mostly buff tourism, and like I said, there are requirements for building some of the special buildings. That's the transport tower, things like that. So yeah, and like this whole game is just about making really cool, really big cities. I'm back up. Have I hit 100,000? No, 95,000 at the moment. And I'm going to make this sort of not a high-rise town. In fact, I didn't talk about this before, but with regards to districts, one thing you can do, if you click on the district name, you have policies. Now, you can do this city-wide, but you can also do it district-wide. If you remember city ordinances from the older SimCity games, this is what these are, but you can set them on a per-district basis. So you can set tax rates to encourage commercial development and office development, or tax relief, raises, that kind of stuff. City plannings, for example, I have high-tech housing, which basically makes this a sort of rich area of the city. But you can also do stuff like, for example, I could ban high-rises and heavy traffic in a particular area, and that can help with traffic flow in some areas. So, for example, I have over here this suburb, Hickory Heights, right? Now, I don't want trucks going through Hickory Heights, so what I can do is select policies and then go there and hit heavy traffic ban. It'll add to my costs. It increases no heavy transport, does not affect highways, so it increases my costs somewhat, but the end result is that I don't get trucks going down there. And I've just realised I shouldn't enable it for that neighbourhood because I have this road right at the edge there, so that was the wrong neighbourhood for that. The neighbourhood I wanted was actually this one here to do that with. So I'm going to do that here because that's the best neighbourhood to do that. Industrial space planning, yeah, and you can see it has an effect on the upkeep there as well. And that, so each ordinance will cost you money, or in most cases they'll cost you money. And I have recycling and smoking ban. Some of these are citywide ordinances, and you'll see them show up here. So if I click just here without a district selected, these are my city policies. So this is for the whole city. But then I could disable one of those policies for a particular district, and that's why the districts become so important. And I've just noticed too, I expanded this area and I haven't painted it down, so I'll just paint this area into a district down here. What we might do is actually connect these two districts, so I'll paint the airport district. I put the airport in its own district just because I can, and I'm not going to do anything with it, but for me, in terms of my ability to plan a city, being able to use districts is really cool because it lets me create these sort of zones and regions in a city, and even if I don't do anything with it, even if they're just for essentially aesthetic purposes, it helps me visually when I'm looking at the city to see different parts, and I can, in my head, I can think, oh look, Magnolia Hills has got a problem, what do I need to do about that, instead of thinking, oh, this bit over here on the other side of the highway has a problem, you know. And you can rename them too, so I can select that and then like rename this, I don't know, I can't even think of a name, let's call it Stormobile. So there we go, so yeah. So you can rename suburbs and stuff like that. I didn't even rename my city when I got it, but I could do that if I wanted. I think I clicked that button, and yeah, I can rename the whole city there, which I haven't got around to doing, but oh well. And yeah, you can actually rename everything in this game too, which is good because there aren't a huge variety of names. Everything has a name, like so the Strawberry Residence, you can click that, rename it. You can even do stuff like, let me find... Everyone has their own name, like individual Sims, and I could rename that person. Like, I'll never find that person again, but if I wanted to, I could rename her. And I can follow her around. I'm assuming it's a her, given her name is Rosemary Parker. She's a well-educated young adult, and you can do this for every citizen, and it's just a tool, as it is with most of these games, it's just a tool that helps you find problems with your city and stuff like that. So for example, I had a problem here with traffic, and this road had too many intersections. You can see it doesn't anymore because I've really changed this up, but there was a period of time where there was an intersection here, an intersection here, and an intersection here, and the traffic just banked up because it was this road, and then it was actually that highway, and then that highway, and they were all intersecting here. And I just thought, no, alleviate that, build a bridge. So I built a bridge, and I've got another bridge further down, and you can actually see it better illustrated here where I've built this bridge. So if I hadn't built this bridge, I'd have 3 intersections. You see there's a lot of traffic there anyway without that. So it just takes things down. And of course, as with proper civil engineering and urban planning, you have the whole thing where the roads are hierarchical. So what you don't want to do is upgrade every road to be the highest capacity. What you want to do is use high capacity roads for distribution over long distances, and then lower capacity roads for local distribution, and then streets for the roads where everyone lives. Just, you know, like... And that's how real cities work too. That's how you develop. So you have your big, broad freeways, then you have your wide 4-lane and 6-lane roads, and then you have your little streets, all there. And that's how real cities are planned and developed as well, or at least as far as I know, that's how they're developed. If I have learned nothing else from years of playing SimCity, it's that that's apparently how cities work, because every one of these games uses road hierarchies like that these days. And that's really cool. Yeah, so... oh, and I have a harbour. It's a funny looking harbour actually, but it is a harbour, and that's where boats come in. You see boats out across the water. I should mention too, the game actually has really nice music. Like, it doesn't have a lot of music in it, but you can probably hear it in the background a bit. It's just really nice, inspirational music. Pardon me. And yeah, I'm still fighting off the effects of my cold, if you're wondering too. So, but yeah, that's for another video. So, do I have problems? Can I do anything interesting with the city? I've just mostly spent this video flying around talking about the game. One thing I really want to do, and I'm going to try and experiment with this, is I'm probably going to take this back down to a highway and realign it a little bit. I've got an idea for either building a freeway through here, because you'll notice one thing I haven't done with the city is I don't have any freeways that go into the city. All my freeways actually go around the city. In fact, the default game highways are structured here in such a way that I actually have basically a giant ring road around my city, which is really cool, but it doesn't seem to get a lot of traffic flow. So I'm sort of thinking of ways to either encourage more traffic using that ring road area, or building a couple more freeways through it. I feel like I could probably run a freeway up into the city and link those two there, but it's gonna, as you can see, I'm gonna have to give up a lot of space that I've got here in order to achieve that. But it might work out for the best in the long run. And of course, if you've ever been familiar with real city planning, you'll know that people who do city planning love to cut cities up with giant freeways all over the place. And I'm not sure I really want to do that. Like, I've got these nice big 6-lane roads, and I don't have too many traffic problems. If you want to see your traffic problems, of course, you do have this over here, and you can see I've got, yeah, all these red areas of high traffic. But just because an area is red doesn't mean it's a problem. It's only a problem if you're starting to get lots of it and it's gridlocking your city. But you can sort of see that it is flowing reasonably well. I don't have too many gridlock problems. If I had gridlock problems, you would see a lot of those skull icons, because hearses wouldn't be able to get dead people away. You would see a lot more burnt down buildings. Well, there's a couple there. And there would be a lot more other problems with the city if I had proper traffic flow problems. So heavy traffic on its own isn't bad. It's heavy traffic that's preventing the city from functioning that is bad. And the game is pretty good at simulating that and indicating to you that that's a problem that you're going to have. So this to me is problematic because it's slowing cargo down, and it will actually start harming the industrial areas around here. So I need to do something about that, and that's probably going to be my next project. I always like, when I come into these games, to have these little projects, and that's going to be my next big one for this area. So I'm going to have a long, hard think about that later today, and I'm going to see how I fix that up. But overall, this is the game I've dreamed about since I was a kid. And I know that might sound like a really funny thing to dream about, but you have to understand, I've always loved SimCity, and I've always loved building cities in these games, and I always wanted a game that let me do it in a really cool, freeform way, and I could just have this sprawling metropolis everywhere. And SimCity 5 was so disappointing because it didn't let you do that, because of just how utterly tiny and restrictive the city sizes were. Like, forget every other problem with that game. They could have fixed that game and made it absolutely perfect in every other way. But that city size was so restrictive that you could never get that to happen. And it just wasn't enjoyable or fun because of that. And like, everything else could have been perfect with that game, but the city size limit was so constrictive for me, and I would run into the edge of it in an hour, and I would be so crazy because I couldn't do what I wanted. This game doesn't have that problem. Look at that. That is absolutely glorious. I'm going to switch to free camera mode now, just so you can see without like the icons. Free camera mode also changes the mouse sensitivity, so you get these like sweeping mouse movements. I'm trying to do it as smoothly as I can, but like, yeah, and I love that this game has that too. And yeah, like, you know, I started playing this game and I was just crying tears of joy because this is the game I wanted SimCity 5 to be so much. And it's not perfect, it's not quite as polished as SimCity 5, but the fundamentals, the simulation itself and the toolkit you get to build the city with and all that stuff is there, and it's robust. And it is just a beautiful, perfect game. And I cannot recommend this enough if you like SimCity type games. Don't even think about it. It's like $30 on Steam, and that's like half the price you pay for SimCity for a game that is a million times better than SimCity. So that's my opinions on City Skylines, and I will see you all next time.